The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Yankee baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network and a Met fan. But we got the Yankee fan who's a co-host. Robert Denninger is here. Jack DeGraw is on his way. And we're going to talk a little ball. We got the end of the Subway Series going on as we speak. It's Monday night. Yankees-Mets playing a make-up game. It's 4-3 Mets, and as I told Robert off the air, I would much rather be the Yankees with a one-run deficit than the Mets with a one-run lead. And I'm speaking as a long-suffering fan. But, Robert, catch us up a little. Severino's pitching, and you're concerned.
Yeah, and his last 5 starts prior to tonight, he's 1-3 with a 7.66 ERA, and 24 and 2/3 innings. He's given up 33 hits and 22 runs, and in the last month, he's given up 11 home runs. His last outing against the Red Sox, he gave up 3 runs early, but he settled down and looked great. Tonight, he came out, throwing a lot of pitches, gave up 2 more home runs. It's just baffling because he was so dominant the first half of the season, and you don't know if it's a command issue with the fastball, if he's tipping pitches, or maybe his arm's sore and he's not telling anyone.
That's what I would guess. Yeah. Because every pitcher goes through what they call dead arm in the middle of the season, but it doesn't last 4, 5, 6 starts. And
no.
Like with every other team, the Yankees, Mets, same way, will withhold injury information till the last minute, until they can't say. And one day, Severino will come to the park and say, well, my elbow aches, or this, that, and the other thing. I think it's a sign of greed, of selfishness of a ball player. Maybe he's not telling the Yankees, and he's sacrificing. He's trying to do what he can to stay off the DL and work through it. But there comes a time when you're putting your teammates at risk of exactly what happened. They basically fell out of the race with Boston.
Yeah, they're like 9.5 out, and they have 4.5.
If you take his performances and turn them around to just his normal starts, as he was doing going through the year, they'd be 4 games out, 5 games out.
And he is hugely important for their postseason run. I mean, if he's not right, then the Yankees really don't stand a chance in moving throughout the playoffs at all.
Right, and not just and getting there.
Yeah, I mean, they got a 4.5
being there. And at this point, Boston has shown no sign of.
Oh, they're not letting up.
Right. I saw something. I'll tell you what I did see today was Aaron Judge working out. He's not swinging a bat.
No.
But he's staying in condition. And that was nice to see. That's a terrible blow. Another terrible blow was Sanchez.
Yes, apparently Sanchez was doing a little running today, and he's going to do some catching drills tomorrow. But I think he's still a good week or 2 away. And Judge, they said Judge is coming along, good. But just a few days ago, I heard that his wrist still hurts and it's still fractured. So he might be out longer than the 3 weeks they were saying, if it's still fractured and it still hurts. So, but Sanchez, we might have back in a week or 2, hopefully.
Okay, that would
They
be
said,
nice. Romine seems to be wearing down a little bit.
yeah, just a little bit. I mean, he's doing a good job, but you could tell, tonight he took a foul ball off the chest and the thigh, and just having Sanchez's bat in the lineup, it worries opponents and it helps the other batters around Sanchez. It's a big bat to have in your lineup, and plus teams are running on Romine. You're seeing a lot more teams running on the Yankees with Romine behind the plate.
Oh, I thought he was better defensively than was Sanchez.
Well, he's better at, the balls in the dirt and stuff better defensively, but when it comes to throwing out runners, Sanchez's arm, it's just a cannon compared to Romine's.
Okay. How's Sanchez's head? Has anybody talked about that? Have they gotten that no hustle thing, incident, put that behind them? Are they communicating with him on that? I know it's not his first rodeo along those lines.
No, he's starting to get a reputation, as a guy who doesn't. I think he's just, not lazy, but just slow, just someone who doesn't naturally hustle. He's got to consciously remember to go after a ball that gets away. He has to consciously remind himself to hustle. I think he's just one of those people who's just naturally laid back.
Right.
But if they're talking with him, I haven't heard anything. But I'm sure they've had talks with him behind the scenes.
Okay. What's coming up on the Yankee agenda in the next few homestands or a few matchups?
I'm not sure what their schedule is right now, but I did want to bring up something with Boone. Neil Walker, the past 20 games, is batting .307 with 4 home runs, and there's a game a couple days ago where he hit 2 home runs, and then the next day he sits them, and he really didn't give a quality reason why. And then the other day, Greg Bird had 2 doubles, and then he sits him the next day, and he said it was basically because of the lefty was on the mound. But Greg Bird has actually hit lefties better than righties this year, and it just seems like the Yankees are really going by the analytical stuff a lot more this year than they did in the past.
Okay. Would you, just your observation, would have they been better off with Girardi?
I think they, quite possibly, because Girardi is a little bit more intense. I mean, the Yankees got a great, they're just blessed with talent. So, I mean, they were going to be competitive, whoever was managing the team, but I think Girardi does have a little bit more urgency and intensity to him that might rub off on the younger kids more. I think Boone is just a little bit too laid back.
Okay. I like the job that Girardi does on MLB Network.
Yeah.
Very good communicator along that way. I really like Billy Ripken. My God, what a good coach or manager he would make. Just as an aside. Okay, here's another aside. Former Yankee terrific pitcher, if not great, Fritz Peterson, is suffering from Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, man.
So if you want to catch up with him on Facebook and wish him good luck,
yeah, absolutely,
and all the best or good vibes or whatever, please do. Fritz has been a frequent guest on these airwaves. He's a terrific, down-to-earth guy, and I'm so saddened by this because it's the one disease, or if not the one disease, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. We all fear that about getting old, and it's a nightmare. So let's hope things are copacetic with him, and hopefully a cure is right around the corner.
Yeah, it's awful
you don't
disease.
have to be a ball player to suffer, or a baseball fan, or anything else. It's on all walks of life, and it's horrible. So, best to you, Fritz, and there you go.
The Yankees schedule that they host Tampa Bay for 3 games, and then Toronto comes in for 3 games.
Tampa's very interesting, what with their pitching and their approach to pitching.
And they always give the Yankees troubles.
Right, for one reason or another, they always have. What else is going on with the Yankees that you see would be a key down the stretch?
Well, getting Sanchez back would be a good start. Severino
sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Severino figuring out what's going on with him. Tanaka in his last 5 starts, his last outing wasn't too good, but he's 2-1 with a 2.61 ERA in his last 5 starts. He continues to pitch well. Stanton is just his last 30 games is batting .307 with 7 homers and over 20 RBIs. Him continuing to hit. Andujar looks like he's going to make a run for Rookie of the Year. It really comes down to the pitching and bullpen.
Torres isn't hitting that well of late.
Gleyber Torres?
Yeah.
Yeah, ever since that hip injury, he just doesn't seem to be the same. There's been a couple times I've seen him run to first, and he looks like he's running a little gingerly, and his hitting is starting to dip a little bit. So I wonder if he's another one who's being quiet about a sore hip.
Now, there's a guy that Walker could replace for a couple of days and give him a breather and get Walker's bat into the lineup.
Yeah, and they also recalled Ronald Torreyes today, so they got him on the bench as well. Yeah, he's a nice little spark plug to have off your bench. But Neil Walker, like he said, in the last 20 games he's batting over 300 with 4 home runs. So it might be a good idea to give Gleyber a few days off or a day here and there.
Yeah, he's played virtually every game this year.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the pitchers they picked up in the?
I really like J.A. Happ. I think he's going to be a real nice addition going down the stretch. Zach Britton so far, I don't think he's quite back to where he used to be, because he's been struggling when they brought him in.
Mm-hmm. How about the let's say it's good theater with Sonny Gray. One way or the other, it's good theater. What do you think of his insensitive remarks? Can you disregard them just because they were made 4, 5, 6 years ago? You say, well, he was 18 or just a kid at that time. You're pretty well formed at that. Your thought process is pretty well formed at that age.
Yeah. So, I'm the kind of person that believes people don't change with age. They just learn to adapt. He apparently said it was an inside joke between him and a friend. If that's true, it's one thing, but still kind of inappropriate to put out for everyone to see.
Right. And what was funny about that?
I didn't find anything.
The inside joke needs a punchline, for crying out loud. If it's an inside punchline, it needs a punchline. And that was not at all funny. And he did stand up in the clubhouse, and he said, you guys talking to the press. You guys can talk to anybody here about my character. So it could be something that just a one-time thing, this, that, or the other thing. It's not going to bring a team much closer together. And he's struggling as is. I think the timing is horrible.
And Sabathia was put on the DL today, so they're going to need a starter, I think, for Thursday or Friday. And Gray, who moved to the bullpen, it's either going to be Gray or maybe they call up Chance Adams or Luis Sessa, or they could call up Justice Sheffield, but they're going to need someone to start in place of Sabathia. And I don't know if you really want to go to Gray again. I mean, his first outing out of the bullpen, he pitched 3 scoreless innings, and then the other day they bring him in and he gives up 2 runs on 5 hits in 1 inning. You just don't know what you're going to get with him.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to risk a start on
No.
him. Let me ask you this. There was a great stat on Facebook today about Sabathia having won more than 100 games more than he's lost. And there is no one who's done that over a career who's not in the Hall of Fame.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I'm wondering now, this guy's got, 240 wins, something like that?
I think he's got 244.
All right.
Yeah.
That's well on the way to the coveted 300 if you could get 4 or 5 more years out of him.
Yeah, and
but,
he's rediscovered himself. He's learned how to pitch instead of being a power pitcher. And I guess this stint in the DL was a planned stint. They want to give him time off during the season when his knee felt a little funny, not funny, but just wanted to give him a little rest. So he's not really hurt. It was something that they've been talking about, giving him a break. So, I mean, if he can...
Hey, let's not forget, these are the dog days of the summer.
Yeah.
And those are days when a good bench and a deep pitching staff comes in handy. So were I Boone, I'd be heeding our advice a little bit. Rest Torres. Let Walker play on a regular basis. He plays 2 or 3 different positions. Keep him in.
And they got him.
He's hot, and give guys a rest.
Yeah, and they even put Walker in the outfield the other day. So I mean, he can play multiple positions. So rest some of these guys.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, nice catching up with you.
No, I always love talking with you, Ralph.
This is fun, and we'll do it again real soon. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The show is New York Yankees, past, present, future. Robert Denninger is here. We missed Jack DeGraw. I'll try to catch him in a day or so, and we'll put this together, and we'll have a great episode. And thank you again, my friend.
Oh, thanks, Ralph.
All right, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Adios.
Hello.
Hey, Jack DeGraw, Ralph Tycho. Time to talk a little New York Yankee baseball.
Sounds great.
All right. I spoke with Robert yesterday, and you today, my 2 experts on what's going on. Is there a real competition being felt between the Yankees and the Athletics at this point? Is that something that's in their mind?
Well, I don't know if it's in the Yankees' mind, but, I mean, the Athletics are playing some outstanding baseball. And, I mean, I hope for the fans in Oakland and stuff because they deserve a good team, with all what they've been through. And they got a terrific team. So as it looks right now, it's going to be the Yankees and the A's in the wild card game, and then you just flip a coin. So
after that, I harken back to the Florida Marlins. That's what they were called at that time. When they were a wild card team against the Giants, I can't remember the exact year, but they went on to win the World Series, and then the team was dismantled. So
2003.
2003, you're absolutely right, and it broke the Giants' heart because they, I think they deserve to be in the playoffs. It was the first year or two of that wild card situation, and fans just weren't used to the fact that it is a crapshoot. You get into the playoffs by hook or crook, and anything can happen. So that the Yanks could feel good about the fact that they should be getting Sanchez and Judge back. They're not going to catch Boston. Boston is just infallible over the long haul of the season. But if they get into the wild card, there's that chance they could catch fire and momentum can go their way, and in a few short series they could be back on top. So, but I'm living out here in Northern California. Just want you to know how, and everybody out there to know just how incredibly good the A's have been of late. And they've got good young players coming around. It's just nice to see, and it's done with mirrors, much in the same sense as the Yankee rotation is being held together. What with Lynn and Happ being your two best pitchers. With the A's, they've had 5 guys go down. 4 of the 5 pitchers, rather, in the rotation have gone down for the year. And they've Billy Beane has managed to bring on the likes of Cahill and Anderson and Jackson, and they're add those guys to Minaya and the guy I'm forgetting, and they become real competitors, and they play old-fashioned station-to-station baseball at time. Not necessarily station-to-station, hit and run, bunting, moving the runner along. They're fun to watch. They lost today in a heartbreaker, but I just want to alert the Yankee fans, if they don't already know, that here comes Oakland, and it's going to be a struggle.
Well, the thing with the A's, I mean, they're right. They're getting there now with the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Astros. I mean, it's just not a fluky year. I mean, they're right up there, like 70-some wins. So
right, 73 wins at this time. I don't think they won 73 wins at all last year. And like I say, it's done with mirrors, but you gotta admire Billy Beane, just as I admire Cashin. And fellow podcaster Marty Rose put a Facebook post up today that if Lynn and Happ are in fact top-notch pitchers in your rotation, and even if they're 3 and 4 guys, you really have to admire Cashman for bringing them on. Great moves.
Well, Happ has pitched in the AL East, for the last 6-7 years with Toronto, and he's done a great job. And then you get like Lynn. I mean, he's got World Series experience with the Cardinals, and he had some outstanding seasons. I mean, and he won 48 games in 3 years, so he's just not another pitcher either. So, they should look over the off season and signing these guys because they're really good pitchers.
Okay. Let's change the subject a little bit. I just want to be the first to ask. Are the second base and third base rookies, Torres and Andujar, are they starting to show some cracks a little bit in their game?
Well, I think the thing is, Ralph, they're young guys.
Yes, to be understood.
Yeah.
I'm nothing. And should this be an opportunity for Walker to get much, much more at bats? And Robert and I were talking about how he's Boone doesn't tend to play guys the next day who do very well. And Walker's been playing well on occasion. He just doesn't get a shot to give it 3, 4, 5 days in a row, filling in for everybody. What do you say to that?
Well, I think, Ralph, now with, Andujar and Torres, it's like this is becoming like, okay, the season should be almost over for these guys because they haven't played 162 games. They're used to being the season's done by Labor Day.
Right.
And plus you get a guy like Walker. Walker had some, he's got some playoff experience too, and I know he's picked it up with the bat lately. So he could play, a part going down the stretch.
It would be nice, and I would highly recommend that Boone rest guys and not have his foot on the throttle every night anymore. It's one of the advantages of being out of the race and racing a different race for the wild card, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You could afford, if you're not trying to catch up 5, 6 games, because it's more than that now and you ain't catching up, you can afford to rest guys, rotate that infield, prepare for that one game, whatever it's going to be. It's a different managerial strategy the way I look at it, depending on which race you're racing. And as you say, these guys aren't used to playing that many games. The minor league season ends at the beginning of September. Even if you're in the playoffs, it only lasts till like the 5th, as you say. And, it's been a long, long grind. These are the dog days of summer, and Boone is getting used to being at the helm. I asked Robert this, and I'll ask you this. Would have Girardi had them in a better place than Boone has them?
Well, I think if you look at the Yankees' record, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season they were going to be 75-44 now, I would have said they're going to be 7 or 8 games in first place.
Right.
And I think the whole thing, Girardi was a good player, and I thought he was an excellent manager, but I think at the time, there's things going behind the scenes that, we don't know about. So I think if you look at it, Boone's done a very good job so far, but we're going to have to see as it goes forward. The big thing with the Yankees, if they don't win the World Series every year, the Yankee fans look at it as a disaster. And if they lose the one-game playoffs,
yeah, oh yeah, and you have to remember that playing in the New York market is a totally different animal. So strategy is based on the pressure you feel from the alum, if you will. It's not quite the alum, but Yankee fans have been used to winning, and it's difficult for them to accept anything else. You mentioned that with the record they have now, you would expect them to be in first place. I'm reminded of the 1954 New York Yankees, who had the best record they ever had under Casey. And not only that, they were coming off 5 world championships in a row where they never won as many as, I think they won 109 games or 103 games, and were blown away by Cleveland. So,
well,
go ahead.
if I remember, Cleveland had 111 wins.
Right.
And the Yankees had 103, and that's when Cleveland had Feller and Garcia and Bob Lemon.
Right.
And, offhand, I don't remember the other guy.
Well,
but we can't forget, Ralph, Cleveland got swept in the World Series by the Giants.
Right. That's right. That's right. My Giants, as a matter of fact, I was a New York Giant fan as a kid. And that was the last championship they felt for a long, long time. They end up moving in '57, come out to San Francisco, and they had a big drought in World Champions. Had some great teams that finished second to the Dodgers over the years, and they had that year with the Angels, where the Angels just beat them in the World Series. To get into the history of Dusty Baker flipping the ball isn't necessary for an old Giant apologist like myself. But
Ralph, if you remember, after I think the '92 season when the Giants knocked out the Dodgers in the last weekend with Joe Morgan hit a home run, the Giants were moving down here to Tampa.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And if I can paraphrase Peter Golenbach's story of why they never got to Tampa.
Yeah.
And if you remember the name Bill White, former New York Giant and the president of the National League at the time, had quite an experience with St. Petersburg, and that's where they were going to go. It wasn't Tampa that they were headed for at the time. And when Bill White played, he took spring training in St. Pete, as did the Yankees. They shared a complex at Al Lang Field, which they did for many years. And the way blacks were treated in St. Pete at the time was terrible. At first, players couldn't stay in the same hotel. For a while, they stayed in the hotel, and then they couldn't swim in the swimming pool. They were happier with the system of people taking them in, if you will. It was just horrible, and Bill White remembers it very well, and he remembers the old Tampa. A lot of things have changed, but sometimes the more things change, they stay the same. And when it came time for Bill White to approve that move, he put the kibosh on it, and the Giants were saved for San Francisco, and there were few other times when they were about to leave. They almost went to Toronto, but Herseth and Bob Lurie saved them from that. It's a shaky road. They finally got a ballpark. They were the first to finance their own ballpark, so they changed the face of baseball in that sense. And the loan is finally paid off, and they're sitting pretty with a hell of a franchise and a rejuvenated neighborhood in and around the ballpark. So the A's need to do the same thing. I'll wrap up my rant and let you talk.
Well, Ralph, after '61, that's why the Yankees left Tampa too, because of the way the blacks were getting. That's why the Yankees left St. Pete and went to Fort Lauderdale, because of the way the blacks were getting treated. And if you remember, the Mets just come in '62.
I know.
And they took over St. Pete. And just let me tell you, Ralph, Al Lang Field was the nicest spring training facility I ever went to.
I have a picture
When I
of
lived
myself
in
in front of there. I've been
Yeah.
there. It is. I went to an instructional league game there. Got to meet Bill Monbouquet, who was a minor league pitching coach with the Mets then, and took a picture with him. Loved that facility. It was not. It wasn't the field that was the issue. The issue was the mindset of the people in. And I won't say all Southerners are that way, or all Floridians are that way, or that. But native Florida, most people come down with the impression that it's all, shall we say, homogenized at this point. It's not. A lot of Florida still exists. But
well, Ralph, the old boy network still exists down here.
Oh yeah,
in politics,
everywhere, and it still exists in baseball too.
And it always will.
And in life, that it's sometimes it's not who you know, that kind of thing, and you have to have a way of networking and communicating with folks that so that you can make it. I understand that, but you see what the social problems are in this country all too well, and the South is pretty much at the root of it for a lot of reasons. But we both digress. What do you see coming up this week with the Yankees, and what are your impressions?
Well, I mean, Ralph, I look at the team and I look at the record, and I like I've said all along, I'm very happy the way the things are and stuff. I mean, I think Cashman's did a fantastic job. The rookies have stepped in and done well, and I mean, considering Judge is hurt, Sanchez is hurt, and I think Sanchez is going to do an instructional league game starting next week down here in Tampa. So, I mean, when they get the two big bats back, they'll be even better. But, it all comes down to one game. And, let me ask you a question, Ralph. Do you think if the Yankees lose, they might change, the wild card format to the best out of three? Because if you remember in the NBA years ago, when the Lakers had Magic Johnson, the Lakers lost 2 out of 3 to the Houston Rockets, and they changed the playoff format. They might do that now if the Yankees lose.
I don't know. I don't know if that was in the works. There's been talk of changing that format, whether or not the Yankees lose. It isn't new talk. Did the Yankees have that much juice? I don't know.
Well,
it's very food for thought for sure.
Well, I think with the networks, I mean, the networks would love to see the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series every year.
No question. No question about that. Yeah, that's a good point. And you know how TV is ruling baseball these days.
And it has ruined it.
Yeah. Well, there are a number of things that have, quote, ruined it, unquote. But, there are a number of things that are always going to bring it back. You say, well, this is going downhill. We don't get enough hit and run. We don't get enough bunting. But I'll tell you what, we're seeing defense on a consistent basis all around the league, all around both leagues, that we never saw before. Double play combinations, incredible plays made in the outfield, guys with hops, jumping over halfway over the fence. Mookie Betts comes to mind. 4 or 5 great plays over the last month out of him, and he's just won. I see highlight films every morning on MLB.com, MLB Baseball, whatever it is, the station I'm watching, and I say, are these season highlights or are these daily highlights? You really can't tell because you see plays that are incredible, and that's the joy of baseball that I look at, because there are a lot of things that are sickening. There are so many people hitting under the Mendoza line. That really turns me off.
Yeah.
And what the announcers talk about, what the players are going for, elevated strokes, just all kinds of just home run derby, strike out or hit a home run, and that's all that matters. And that's
exit
why,
velocity.
yeah, that's why I like the A's this year, and that's why I think if the A's or a team like Tampa, who's making an attempt to revolutionize the pitching rotation, if teams that try something and are successful at it win, then they'll quickly be emulated by other teams. It'll become almost a fad to get back to the hit and run thing or whatever. It takes winning to do that, but I'll tell you what, if Tony Gwynn were alive today, he'd get up and hit 400 at age 55 just by hitting it into the 5-hole where nobody lives anymore. They've all gone to the right side of the infield. So,
well, you know, the thing, Ralph, with teams like the A's and the Rays, you know, they don't have the money of the other teams, so they have to be innovative and try different things.
absolutely.
And I give the Rays ownership down here. I mean, they don't want to spend no money, but they bring in these guys and they keep that team competitive. And, you know, I give them all the credit in the world.
I do too. And same with the A's. You know, the A's payroll is a fraction of what the Yankees payroll is. And I'm not exaggerating. I don't have the exact figures in front of me. And or otherwise I'd be walking into the wall because but so give those two general managers, Billy Beane and Cashman, a big hand from the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Jack, it's a pleasure talking ball with you.
Anytime, Ralph. I love doing it.
All
Keep
right.
up the good work.
Well, if this is work, I'm keeping it up.
Well, I'm glad I can keep anything up at this point.
Well, God bless you, and that's talk for another show.
Yeah.
Good luck to you along those lines. Adios, everybody. Thank you for listening to our drivel. Jack DeGraw. It's not really drivel. Jack gives us excellent insight into the Yankees, as does Robert Denninger. And I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios,
Good night, Ralph.
everybody. Good night, Jack.